For this trip, I brought the Western Mountaineering Summerlight 320. This is an excellent ultralight bag. There's not many frills to it. It's got a full left zip and a nice beefy size, at least a number 5 zipper, so it's not going to break. And a cinch for the top so you can kind of cocoon your face around that. For a trip like this, you might think that it's overkill because I'm doing the trip in the middle of July. But you have to remember that I spent many nights on a ridgeline over 13,000 feet with no real shelter at all. So this was cutting corner. This was like, can I get away with just using this? So I'm here. I did. It worked great. Awesome bag. For shelters, I brought the Ultimate Direction FK Tarp. This thing rules. I've been using this thing since 2017 when I initially brought it on my tour, the highest 100, which was a 2-month trip to summit the highest 105 mountains in Colorado. And it never let me down. This thing is so awesome, and I'm so sad to tell you that it's also discontinued. I don't know if they're going to do another run. I hope they do. I hope they do a V2 of this. I think it's amazing. It's made of very thin, I believe, sil nylon, maybe 15D. It sets up super nice and taut, so if it does rain, it won't get too loose and you'll have to like retension everything. The area below the tarp is super spacious. It's actually made for 2 people, not 1. So when I'm using it alone, which is all the time, I can lay out all my gear and do some organization while being protected. I didn't think I'd actually use this at all. I just have it in the bottom of my pack as as needed kind of piece. But I actually put this up every time I was above 13,000 feet. I found that putting up the tarp cut the wind out and I was able to sleep much warmer. It's usually put up with 2 trekking poles, but I've been able to put it up with just 1. So if you break a trekking pole, which is almost inevitable on a trip like this, you're not out of luck, you're not SOL. Before the trip, as you can see, I did replace all the cord found, all the guy lines found on the tarp, just because they were getting a little ratty, they're getting a little old, and I did some repairs on the little loops that keep the cords on. So unfortunately, this might be becoming a little bit too old for me to really trust with my life. And I don't know what I'm going to do. So if you have any suggestions on a new tarp for me to use that has some of the qualities that I like, basically under 250 grams is the big one. Let me know. Put your suggestion in the comments below. And to put up this tarp, you need 8 tent stakes. So these are mostly the MSR mini groundhogs. And they work just great. They are wrapped in these like night-eyed gear ties, and I plan to use these gear ties to wrap things to the outside of my pack to dry them, but I never really use them, so they just were used as the stake holders. Along with the tarp, I actually brought a Bivvy. This is the Rab Survival Zone Light Bivvy. And again, I love this thing. It has a lot of characteristics that I look for in a Bivvy. 1, it's very light. 2, it's very simple. 3, it's breathable enough. It's a little water resistant, but it's not waterproof. When I tried this trip in 2022, I had the misfortune of having my tarp that I brought rip on me and become unusable. And I had to survive about 6 hours of a rain and windstorm inside a cloud on top of a ridge at 13,000 feet. Burrowed in the survival zone light bivvy. And thankfully, it was one of the reasons why I survived the day without a huge case of hypothermia or something like that. So I can really thank that bivvy for a lot. I am a pillow princess, so I did bring a pillow. This is the Sea to Summit Eros Ultralight Pillow in large. I do sleep much better with a pillow, so I bring one. I also didn't have a lot of clothes that I wasn't wearing to use as a makeshift pillow by stuffing those clothes in a stuff sack. So for a sleeping pad, I actually did something kind of strange. The first thing I did was bring my Thermarest X-Therm that I have cut down to about 3/4 length. And funnily enough, this is the same pad that I used on my 2019 and 2022 trip. and it's still going strong. I bought this, I think, in 2016, 2017. Since then, Thermarest has actually brought out a new version of the X-Therm. Just to be clear, this is the old version. It's holding on by wishes and dreams. As you can see, there's a lot of patches I have used to fix the pad with leaks, including one on the side. And if you really want to look closely, I have had to apply seam grip to the valve as well. A lot of these fixes shouldn't be working. Like, a side leak usually spells the death of a pad, but I've allowed this thing to limp on with my adventures. I do like to get the most out of my gear. I find this gear is expensive, and I don't want to constantly be throwing away pretty good gear. So if I can repair gear, I'd rather do that than have to replace it. But saying that, this pad has had a wonderful life. It's been on many a ridgeline, many a backpacking adventure, and soon enough I may have to replace it, or at least have it as the backup. But Thermarest, you make a really good pad, and thank you for that. I chose the X-Therm because of its R rated. I think this model has an R rating of 4 or 5, which is great. The new X-Therms have an R rating of like 7, which is phenomenal, which makes it kind of a winter pad. But I find that talus ridges at 13,000 feet are very cold. The ground is very cold. There's usually like a field of snow 100 feet away. And I bring a high R-rated pad that might be a little heavier, just so I don't have to bring such a big sleeping bag. And I feel as if that works for me. So yeah, Thermarest X-Therm OG. Okay, so that was sleeping pad number 1. Sleeping pad number 2 was also the back padding to my backpack. This specific backpack has sleeves on the back, so you can store and use a closed cell sleeping pad like this one. And that's exactly what I did. So this is the Nemo Switchback Short, and I then cut this down from 10 panels to 6. And I use this for my feet, so my feet weren't just on rocks. I had cut down my X-Therm to reach just my butt, and the X-Therm coupled with the Nemo is lighter than just a full X-Therm. Plus, I saved from not needing a back pad, because this supplemented as my back pad. One of the things that surprised me is that I use this all the freaking time in the daytime. Say I needed a 10-minute nap. Do you think I'm going to blow up the X-Therm? Not a chance. Pop this down, lay on it, 10 minutes, get up, keep going. You know, if my back was kind of hurting me from doing all this like backpacking and I just wanted to stretch it out and do some cat-cow yoga, pop that down, that's my yoga pad. I'm really happy with this specific gear. It's very cheap. I don't know for something like the Sangre de Cristo range traverse that would only bring this. I did enjoy the X-Therm because it was much more comfortable and much more warm. This has like a R value of like 1.2, so it doesn't even compare. But it definitely worked well as both the back pad and supplements sleeping pad. So sweet.